showing up. With that, we have Chainyard, Gary Storr, and Jon Arvik is here also, sidekick, to talk about blockchain in the supply chain and how that's going to impact us going forward. So with that, Gary, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Gary Storr. I'm here from Chainyard. We're a blockchain organization, so welcome everyone. I got to stay put. I'm a wanderer, so this is going to be challenging. So I'll just stand here like a American.
Just this side of the banner. No, you're good. You're good. Just stay that side. Yeah, you go all the way to the screen.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're going viral right now.
Require a lot of instruction. I love Erica's presentation, by the way. Side job as a hobby personal trainer, so I really appreciated her, her business and what she's trying to accomplish. That's a tremendous business concept, and I'm really rooting for her. But our business is called Chainyard. Again, we're a blockchain organization. We do consulting, engineering. We also develop commercial applications. As a matter of fact, we're taking live and have live our very first commercial blockchain-based application that connects suppliers with procurement organizations. So we're really excited about that. But I wanted to talk to you guys today a little bit about blockchain. So first of all, and I want to make this highly interactive. I only got 5 or 6 minutes, and then we'll ask, you guys can ask as many questions as you want. But anybody people here, you all heard of blockchain, right? Pretty much, okay? Anybody know that blockchain and Bitcoin are two different things? Not the same thing, right? Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin use blockchain as a technology, but that's not what it is. Anybody here know what blockchain is? You guys, okay? All right, cool. All right, so we're going to go through that a little bit. Trying to figure out how to use the clicker. All right, do I hit the arrow?
Yeah, let's try that one. The button that looks like it has no mark on it.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's the most used button. Yeah.
So, traditionally, if you look at a solution amongst various parties, there's traditional technologies like EDI and other B2B technologies connect point to point your enterprises. So, for example, if you had an organization that was selling something, and you had an organization that was buying something, and an organization that was selling something, and an organization that was financing something, there would be these various point-to-point interfaces that would occur. That's on the left here in the slide. And traditionally, that's how you would architect a technology solution. This carried a lot of overhead, a lot of costs, a lot of inefficiencies, but it's really the only way that we had to do that and have any kind of trusted, validated transaction base. What blockchain is giving us the ability to do is create a shared ledger, and essentially a shared database that's immutable, means it can't be erased, can't be deleted, and it can be synchronized with information across the network. So if you look at the kind of the slide on the right, these same parties now can cohabitate on a blockchain and share information. So if I am a manufacturer and I want to ship my product, and I want to have a financial institution finance my product or collect revenue for my product, if I have an insurer that needs to insure my transportation, I may have some kind of audit that's required based on the kind of product or good I'm shipping. All of these entities can exist on a blockchain. And all of these transactions can occur in real time on a blockchain in that trusted shared environment. All of these organizations will own what's called a node, which is essentially a copy of the information. Okay, and so at a high level, what the blockchain does is it takes all of these point-to-point transactions that we had in our past and still do to a large extent today in many of our enterprises. So we're still using EDI after all these years, right? And it allows us to put it on a shared network. Okay, so if you read anything about blockchain, one of the first words that you're going to hear is trust. It allows us to trust each other. Why? Because we all have a copy of the data. So if we're on a network together, I have a copy, you have a copy, the other 66 people in this room have a copy. If you and I decide to change our copy of the data, the other 66 people in the room are going to know that we colluded to change that data, and that's not going to work out well for us because we changed their data, our data, and they didn't change theirs. Okay, so that's where the trust comes in. The data is shared, and it cannot be adjusted, can't be erased, it can't be modified without all the constituencies on the network consenting to that change. Okay. We'll generate, anytime there's a new technology introduced, there's always a new revenue stream generated, right? So witness smartphones, which was revolutionary. Cloud, which is an evolution, kind of an evolutionary technology, just in a recent past. So all of these things generate new revenue streams, new opportunities. So if you're a business in the technology space, or any other space for that matter, for example, Erica, you might have your app on the blockchain one day, perhaps. Because there's going to be multiple parties involved. It removes the barriers. I talked a little bit about that in terms of some of the traditional barriers we had with point-to-point relationships now go away because we're all existing on a common network that's shared and trusted. And it can reinvent the way, in some cases, reinvent the way certain businesses operate. Okay? The nature of a financial institution is going to change. Not just because of blockchain. I got 4 minutes. Better hurry. But banks are going to, the characteristics of a bank are going to change because they're going to exist inside of networks, okay? They're going to exist more as a partner with a business because they're going to collect the cash in real time. They're going to distribute the financing in real time. They're probably going to cohabitate with insurances and things of that nature. Gotta move quickly. So where blockchain really exists and really shines and really has an interesting use case. Anytime you have multiple people writing data or information to support a common goal, where you need to share that information, where you need to trust that information. Again, trust comes up again. There are multiple parties. One of the things big business has trouble with as it relates to blockchain is it's not strictly an enterprise tool. It means it doesn't exist within your four walls. There's no point in having a blockchain inside your own business. You wouldn't have one at home, for example, because ideally you trust yourself. And if you don't, that's probably another conversation we can have later on. But it's only really a viable strategy to a large enterprise if you are dealing with another large enterprise or another enterprise, right? That's a real paradigm shift. This is kind of the first technology that we've encountered that really mandates that to prove its use case. If there's complex logic, a lot of different protocols. I mentioned audits, right? So we're in the world of SOX and compliance and HIPAA, a lot of audit requirements, and if there's a decentralization requirement. Okay? So some of the buzzwords that you'll see blockchain applied to, just real quickly, so probably about a minute and a half here. So track and trace, so taking a component, a product, an entity, a thing from A to B, from cradle to grave, tracking, right? Anywhere from tracking a bulldozer to a handbag, right? Anything, right? Anything that you need to look at in real time. So you've probably seen the food trust commercial by IBM if you watch football. They played about between every snap, it seems like. And so what IBM's doing is they've got a food trust network that tracks the food from the time the farmer picks it off out of the ground or off the tree to the time it arrives in your grocery store. Okay, in real time, anybody can look at that. Compliance, resolving disputes. So this again, banks are going to have a high level of participation in this. Simplifying processes. Everybody's on the network. Everybody has real time visibility. Everybody has their own copy of the data that simplifies what you can do from a data perspective and a processing perspective. Reduction of fees because there's less complexity, right? So it's not only is it more efficient, it's more cost effective. Data monetization, obviously, right? Because now you're creating ownership of data. And that's a whole nother ballpark that blockchain opens up is who really owns the data. We all have a copy of it. So I think that's going to be a really interesting conversation the industry is going to have over time is data ownership. That conversation obviously has already started. So who owns the data? Who owns my data? Do I own it? Do I give you the right to use it? If I give you the right to use it, how can you use it? Those kinds of things are going to be very interesting, not just for blockchain, but for just the way we manage our information going forward, and then identity. And then where we're seeing it adopted today, right? So this is just kind of a high-level look that it's being adopted highly, and I mentioned banks again, insurance, supply chains, retail, transportation, healthcare, the government, public records. We're seeing high levels of adoption of blockchain. Medium adoption, voting, which is kind of something I wish there was a higher adoption of, because I think that's the perfect use case for a public blockchain. Cloud, you're starting to see corporate governance, real estate, some areas where it's not really adopting yet, but we're starting to see a little bit, like law enforcement, for example. Utilities, I think that's going to take off a great deal. I've got 1 minute, no timeouts here. Sports management, Uber and Lyft, now that would be an interesting use case for blockchain. Arms tracking, never really thought about that one, but I suppose if you're legally moving arms, perhaps you want to have it on a blockchain. I think if you're doing that as contraband, maybe you don't want that on a blockchain. Maybe I'm not sure. So, and crowdfunding, that sounds like a great use case for it, but we're seeing low levels of adoption. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of the 6-minute dissertation on blockchain. I guess at this point, well, John, anything you want to add?
How big is blockchain? Or how big is Chainyard?
How big is Chainyard?
What's our organization look
We're
like?
not supposed to sell, but I'll tell you a little bit about Chainyard. Chainyard's about 60 people, mostly consulting. As I said, we've launched our first product. We've got that in production basically this week, so we're really proud of that. We came from an organization as a spin-off from an organization called IT People, so that's about 300 people. So the whole entire organization is about 360 people today. We're located about 5 minutes from here, down by the airport.
Why don't we go ahead and open it up to questions?
Let's give them a round of applause. Woo!
Question. I'm into blockchain and enterprise. I have a question. This blockchain, which platform are you using? Are you using IBM platform?
We're agnostic to platform. Now, that being said, most of our work's private and the enterprise space, so Hyperledger and the IBM Fabric is typically what our customers and our clients want us to use. But we'll use Ethereum, we'll use any blockchain that our customers.
I have a question, because Ethereum, the guy who owns Ethereum, owns that he has no powers of doing certain stuff. You know what I'm saying? He needs to find out receiving and all that stuff. That's what I have issue with that blockchain using his IBM owned, but Ethereum, the guy who owns it, you know what I'm saying, has all the powers. He can do whatever he wants to do and all that stuff. He has no power, even though it's a blockchain, but he has no power to that. What do you think about that?
It's been a criticism. I don't know if there was as much of that as I think that's evolving away.
Have you thought about doing, because if it's owned by IBM, you know what I'm saying, even so you call it centralized, decentralized, you know what I'm saying, but the platform is owned by IBM. To me, it still doesn't click as a block, because that data goes to IBM, everything goes to IBM, even though, have you thought about doing X, Y, Z on the side?
Yeah, so the Fabric is actually open source. So although IBM developed a lot of the Fabric open source code, anybody can use it and it's free, right? So the Hyperledger platform, IBM will go build you a solution, they'll sell you the platform, but you don't have to use it. So one of the things about blockchain that's really important, I think, to understand is it's really still emerging technology, and a lot has yet to be defined. IBM jumped in the lead from a kind of an enterprise and a private network perspective, and they did so for commercial reasons. Obviously, they want to make money at it, so they're not like risk doing this. But at this juncture, I think it would be fair to say they're the market leader, but this is going to continue to evolve. There's other players in the market, and I think we're gonna see blockchain evolve pretty quickly over the next couple of years.
We got a question, I think you're talking about that.
Yeah, that was very interesting, but I have a question. If 66 companies are sharing the blockchain, each one, as you said, has all the information at that company, one of my greatest fears in life these days is hacking. And if I was a hacker, now I'd have 66 places I could steal all the information in that group. How do you protect that?
Without getting too much into the technology, the data as it's stored is hashed. So without the hashing, without the appropriate keys, hacking is very difficult with a blockchain. And there's actually ways to architect a blockchain so you don't have all of the data. So you would only, in an extreme example, you'd only have a piece of the data. So even if I saw your data, I wouldn't have the complete content. And so just having your data would be useless to me. So there's various ways to architect around the exposure. It's ones and zeros, right? So there's always going to be an element of risk. If somebody invents a quantum computer that can solve the hash, then yeah, then blockchain's as vulnerable as, your 8-digit password. But with today's technology, blockchains, I think it's fair to say is as hack-proof as the technology we have today.
I think you'd have to hack all 67 at the same time.
Right, yeah.
Which, that's part of the protection.
It wasn't clear stuff.
I have a question for, what can we as a community do for you? What challenges are you facing? What areas do you need help with your business?
I would say our biggest value to the community here, as well as the industry as a whole, is demystify blockchain. Think of blockchain as the next extension of document management, right? It was developed 20 years ago from the legal firm, or legal industry, for bait stamping. It's a single point of truth. We're all looking for that when we see a document, whether it be a will, whether it be a deed, whether it be your own entity or identity. What we're trying to do is evangelize and demystify blockchain from the non-crypto. We spent a week in San Francisco at the IBM conference. So getting back to your point, Hyperledger Fabric has 250 individual consortium members that are contributing to the open source based on Linux to go out and develop applications and use cases that will shore up the security associated with digital assets. A digital asset could be a collector car. It could be a living trust. The fact of the matter is that the transacting partners, it's their business, nobody else's business. You have to have a very sophisticated crypto key to be able to even access the node in which you're seeing information. What we've done is we've spent the last 4 years developing commercial grade blockchains for financial institutions, as well as other parties that are interested in having transactions be private. What we've seen and what we've launched with Trust Your Supplier is a harmonious across all industries. Everybody has a supplier, everybody has a vendor, everybody has to pay a bill. And what we've done is we've architected a open source blockchain so that people can transact. And people are very, very excited about this. So this is the beginning. You are seeing the beginning of blockchain. Within the next 3 years, you'll have a button on your smartphone that will give you that biometric access to your own node or your own community in which you're transacting on a blockchain.
Gary, I see you got sports management up there. Would that include the Philadelphia Eagles?
Wayne knows I'm a big Eagles fan. Right, so I don't know how to answer that, but I can actually see, I thought about this a lot, over the course of, because I'm also a big sports fan, so I thought about where the application in sports exists. It's a tight-knit community, so I'm not really sure, but I think it's going to, I think you're going to see blockchain applied everywhere, right? I think there's a use case for everything.
I'd like to compliment that. We're doing a blockchain with NASCAR and Hendrick Motorsports to protect the intellectual property of Chevrolet Racing. So if you're interested in motorsports, we'd love to talk to you.
Thank you, it's my first time. I just wanted to ask, in regards to some of your educational aspects, do you put on programs and seminars based on industries through your own organizations on site? And or have you, for instance, utilities is one area up there. Have you attended any and presented at any associations? Would we be interested in doing that about your services?
Would we be, yes, we would be interested in doing it for anyone. I think education's a good thing. There's a lot of misinformation around blockchain. So yes, if somebody wanted us to come in and share what we know about blockchain to the extent that that would be helpful, absolutely. Most of our customers are enterprise customers, and most of our customers see blockchain as the shiny new object, and they want it, but they're not sure why, right? So part of our initial engagement with a client is typically explaining to them what I just explained to you, at perhaps a little bit more of a detailed level, how it might apply to their business, and in development of a rather crude proof of concept to give them some idea how they might commercialize or otherwise place that in their business. So there's a lot of learning going on today simply because organizations don't really understand how blockchain helps them. And so part of our mission early on here in kind of our journey, our business journey is to give them that education and to give them that guidance. Now, hopefully 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now as we go forward and this technology really matures, it's going to be more about implementation of industrial grade blockchain solutions and that integration into their enterprise and really help them operate and conduct business more efficiently. But right now we're still in that infancy stage with most organizations and most use cases.
I think I have a go. Sorry. This might be really ignorant, but is this the answer to having to, for an enterprise to not have to go through a nightmarish SAP implementation? No. Or is this enhance it?
I have to answer that. So ARP, in previous life, I implemented an SAP system, so I feel your pain, right? I went through about a 10-year implementation, so I get it. Yes. I think ERPs are starting to evolve away from what they were, simply because of the nature of, number one, they attract a lot of cost, and there's the new technology is allowing things to be more distributed. I think blockchain will be a piece of ERP, but I hesitate to say that blockchain is going to solve that problem. I think that problem is going to evolve. Businesses aren't going to spend as much on ERPs, so just from that perspective, there's not going to be these huge nine-figure and 10-figure implementations. So from that perspective, I think the pain is going to shift, but blockchain is going to be a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, along the lines you mentioned the need to help people understand blockchain and the conversation you have to have when you first come in the door with an enterprise level client or with any client. How are you guys going about marketing what you're doing and the applications of blockchain? When I think back 20 years ago when Red Hat came up with this idea where we'll give you the code, but they did a fantastic job of marketing this notion of open source, and it grew like kudzu during the summertime. It's my experience with kudzu. And so I'm curious to hear how you guys are you creating branded products and processes? Are you, I haven't been to your site, how you're telling the story, how it's evolving and how it's growing?
Well, one way we're doing it is through developing commercial applications. So by going to the market with a solution that's solving a business problem, we hope is going to raise awareness. It is an interesting challenge all businesses face in terms of how they market, especially new technology, because there's not a playbook for how you market a blockchain platform or a blockchain consulting company like ours. So we're doing some of the traditional methods. We're doing things like this. John mentioned we were with IBM all of last week with 50,000 of our closest friends at a table about 20 inches wide. So we're going through those kinds of exercises, but a lot of it is just conversations. A lot of it is just being part of the community. And I think that what we're seeing is the community is growing from a blockchain perspective, just because more people are that's interested. And it's not just cryptocurrency anymore. And so it gives them an opportunity to answer questions. And anytime you can answer a question, that gives you an opportunity to develop a relationship. So, I don't know, John, you want to add anything to this?
I would just say as additional part of our advocation for the technology is, Gary's right, it's about having communication. So, one of the first passes that we're doing to help get bandwidth and build momentum is working with large corporate membership alliances, associations that have a lot of different members that want more security in terms of how they transact. Also, we're looking at very specific early adopters, as we've seen, that have significant problems in terms of how they're doing their transactions, and they want that next level of security. So we're reaching out, we're advocating, and we're helping them come to their own epiphany, right? What we call a use case. Have you run into this? Have you run into that? Yes, here's an alternative view.
Let me ask a follow-up question then. How are you guys positioning your brand? If I said, if I mentioned your company, what are the 3 to 5 words that we should all walk away saying, they're this? So Apple is a design company. IBM, you can make the case there and then think differently with their tag for a number of years. What is it that we would say about you guys?
Blockchain is coming. Trust your supplier. These are very good comments. You have to be able to have a very truncated type of value proposition for blockchain. Crypto and Bitcoin has its own playing field. We're developing our own, but it's the next venture for document and information management.
Just so of course, we're running out of time, but obviously, you haven't picked up on this. We have converted Carol, I'm sorry, we have 2 minutes left, and this gentleman is being very patient.
Please pardon me, my knowledge may be a little bit out of date here, but have the issues that a few years ago that were basically endemic to blockchain been solved? So for example, in your original example with banks and ledgers, right, all these transactions require confirmations before you can trust them. That is computationally expensive. Who pays the miners or whoever does your confirmations? I mean, I guess I'm asking, how do you guys solve the big issues, or are they no longer issues now?
Some of the issues are still issues. Some of the issues have gone away simply through the way that the solutions are implemented. One of the big issues with blockchain is who pays for it. It's decentralized. So that means that you're going to have organizations that, are maybe have traditionally been competitors. So think about Coke and Pepsi. Just to give you like a real broad example, if there was a blockchain for retail soda distributors, right? Coke and Pepsi may have to be on a consortium and be on a network together, so they may have to cooperate. So now they have to negotiate how they do that. That's a challenge that they probably haven't had to deal with before in many cases. The airlines have done that, but not many other industries have. Banks maybe a little bit. There's this kind of quasi relationship that needs to occur. And then there's the whole commercialization and financing of the network, right? So there's going to be, those I think are the bigger challenges, is who writes the check? Who pays for this thing? Because like any technology, it's not cheap, and the more robust, the more industrial strength it is, the more cost it attracts. So that's, I think, the bigger challenge. The technology challenges can normally be either resolved or at least mitigated, but it's the commercial challenges that we find to be the biggest create the biggest hurdles for our customers.
Give it up for Chainyard.